overthrowing. But the truth is we can probably find out, as a member of Congress, a little bit more about the CIA than we can about the banking system. I mean, I've been on financial service in the banking committee ever since I was in Congress. From early on, I've always stayed on that committee because I'm interested in monetary policy. But I can't get inside one of the open market committee meetings of the Federal Reserve. That would not be permissible. I write laws, bills, hopefully it would be a law, where we could audit the Federal Reserve and find out what they're really doing. I mean, this pablum that they give us about the minutes, that doesn't help us. It's the international agreements. And now we have something called the Presidential Working Committee on Financial Markets that was set up after the stock market crash in '87. And that's very, very secretive. And powerful people serve on that, and they can act to prop up markets for who knows whom. You know what they're doing. But the ownership is, the stock is owned by private bankers, and they get paid interest on this. But the control isn't by every member of the Federal Reserve System. The control is by a small number of people. The Federal Reserve Board, the bank in New York is on the Open Market Committee. But they meet and they decide how much money they're going to be. They decide, well, let's create 10 billion, 20 billion, 30 billion. And they do that with a computer. And they buy Treasury bills. So when there's not enough people buying Treasury bills and interest rates start to go up, they buy these bills and pump money into the markets. Because a lot of people like low interest rates. The bankers like low interest rates, but they like high interest rates when they loan the money to you. But they can borrow from the Federal Reserve. It's money out of thin air. So it's the secrecy of it all that is so bad. The ownership is by members of all the banks. And it is something that Congress created. The first central bank, national bank, was created by Alexander Hamilton, and Jefferson got rid of it. The second one was gotten rid of by Andrew Jackson. And I'm just looking forward to be the president to get rid of the third national bank.
Dr. Paul, out of all the presidential candidates, Republican and Democrat, you're the only physician. Health care is certainly a pressing issue for most Americans. Would you comment what you would do as your experience as a physician once you become president?
Of course, this is one of the major issues of the campaign. And it took us about 35 to 40 years to get us into the mess that we have now. And it's because government took it over. A lot of people think it's a consequence of the free market and doctors gouging and hospitals gouging, but that is not the problem. It's mismanagement by corporations that got involved. It was designed that way. Today, the heavy lobbying in Washington for any medical policy changes come from the drug companies, the HMOs, the hospital administrators, and even the medical societies and AMA. They come in here, and there's always a special interest to protect. And what we've ended up doing is spending a lot more money on our on medicine, but instead of getting better quality care for more people, what happens is when you inject more money, what you do is you push up prices, and it doesn't help. But where did the profits go? They went to the corporations. So the patients get less care, the doctors get less money. They complain about it all the time, and yet the middleman, which is an artificial creation, makes all these billions and billions of dollars of profits. So you have to reject this whole idea of managed care. Managed care came about because of the change in the laws in the early 1970s. The tax laws and the ERISA laws mandated that big corporations provide medical care for their workers, and then they would get the tax deduction. What they didn't do is provide an opportunity for a small businessman and individuals to be able to get the same benefits from it, and it caused an inequity. But on top of all this, you have the government mismanaging, pumping money into a certain industry. At the same time, we're still having inflation. That is, the value of the dollar goes down. So there's more inflation in medicine because the government is involved. You have more inflation in education, or wherever the government gets involved. In housing, there's more inflation. But the government isn't involved in giving you a cell phone or a computer or a television. So even with inflation, the destruction of the dollar, even under those conditions, those prices might even go down. And it's an amazing thing that we live in an age of technology, and there's every other industry. When you have technological advances, it drives prices down. It makes everybody more efficient, but not in medicine. They say, oh, there's too much technology, and we have to charge more and more. But this is because of the government involvement. What we have to do is get control of the dollars back into the hands of the patient. Because the more we move toward more government, and it's already happened, you lose control. The government comes in and tells you that you have to go see this doctor before you can see this doctor. Very, very inefficient. And sometimes you can't even see the doctor that you want. Sometimes you want alternative care. You might want preventative health care. You might want nutritional medicine and other options. And you should have freedom of choice. In a free society, you have absolute freedom of choice because it's your money. And this is the reason the most significant change that we can make is go toward giving you all your medical care dollars back off your taxes. You get the money back, you put it in an account. If you don't use it, you get to keep it. But then we should go back to the concept of insurance. We don't have insurance today. What we have is prepaid care, because if you go to the emergency room and you don't have to pay $5, you might, some people might just abuse that, and they go to the emergency too much, and they push these charges up. And there's a couple other areas that really hurt. There's somebody on the television has been advertising about we have to deal with corporate greed, and that's the reason we have all these problems. The corporations I don't like are the ones who make money off the taxpayers, by contracts with the government. But that same individual happens to be running for presidency on the other side. He's the one that I just wonder whether, trial lawyer greed ought to be involved as well. Because, the medical malpractice issue is a real booster in cost. Because in OBGYN, you have to pay $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. You have to deliver a lot of babies just to pay for this insurance. And I've made some proposals on this, and that is I would legalize contracts in the medical field. Today, I'm not allowed as a physician to contract with my patient and decide on who's going to maybe have a no-fault insurance policy. Say, if there's a bad outcome, we will go and we will buy this policy and maybe even share the cost, and they will take care of it. Now, lawyers would hate this if you could settle it without them being in charge. We have all these lawsuits, which causes doctors to do so many things that they shouldn't be doing because they're scared to death. It's sort of a bit of terrorism that goes on. And if you could do this, the cost would come down. And I have a bill that would make that type of insurance policy deductible. But right now, today, it's illegal to have this contract. If we had a contract like that, there's an antitrust law that says that doctors can't do this. So once again, the government has gotten in the way. They got in the problem of management and then regulating and controlling and telling you what you can do and can't do. And unfortunately, the momentum right now is against us. There's too many people, and some on our side as well. What we need is more government. I say we need a lot less government and more control in the hands of the patient.
Thank you. We'll work the microphone back there. Is there another question while we're doing that on this side? Anyone else on this side? Yes, sir, right here, please. Yes, go ahead.
Dr. Paul, you're running some hard-hitting ads on immigration. Do your policy proposals in this area require expanded government power and expanded INS? How is this consistent with your overall philosophy?
Well, I don't think the powers need to be expanded. Matter of fact, there was a call for expanded powers dealing with illegal immigrants to issue these ID cards, which I indicated that once you start issuing ID cards for somebody who might be illegal or look illegal, everybody would have to have it, for civil liberties reason. I'm very fearful of a national ID card, and that to me is not the solution to make everybody carry a card to prove, our nationality. But, no, I think there's adequate laws on the books. I think we should have more border guards, and we should have more security on our borders. We have border guards that are serving in Iraq. I think we ought to bring them home, and then use them on our own borders. I have emphasized economics on this immigration problem. I think because the standard of living